Legal disclaimer: this channel is for educational purposes only. It is not affiliated with or sponsored by any aircraft or simulator manufacturer. All trademarks and models belong to their respective owners. Welcome to our channel where aviation comes alive. Your trusted source for aircraft, walkarounds, flight training, airport tours, and everything else in between. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you never miss out on new videos. Welcome back to the channel. So here we are once again, in the cockpit of the Cessna 172. Now this is a great opportunity to go over those 6 instruments that we have in the middle there, sometimes referred to as your six-pack. We're going to zoom in and take a close look at each individual one of them, but before we do that, let us get an idea of what the entire panel looks like from the pilot's point of view. Now we've got our 6 instruments in the middle. That's your attitude indicator, your turn coordinator, your altimeter, your vertical speed indicator, your heading indicator, and your airspeed indicator. Then you've got a bunch of other miscellaneous things in between there. You've got a clock, you've got your radio stack, your transponder, and then a few more miscellaneous buttons down here at the bottom. We're not going to talk about those today. And then finally, to the right of the panel, we've got all of our engine-driven instruments and our compass. Let's start off with number 1, which is the airspeed indicator. This one's right in the center there. It's kind of hard to read because the camera lens is getting in the way a little bit, but this one's pretty self-explanatory. As you can see, it will tell us how fast we're moving through the air in knots. If we take a look at the different colors on the arc of the airspeed indicator, you'll see that there's white, there's green, there's yellow, and then finally there's red. Those colors have special meanings. For instance, the white arc represents the speed range for flap retraction and landing. Anything below that white arc means that you should not retract your flaps. The green arc represents normal flight, so anytime you're cruising, you're going to be in that green arc. Anytime you're slowing down too much and you're below that green arc, you want to be careful. That yellow arc is called caution, and that means that you're getting close to a stall. So if you're getting close to a stall, you definitely want to add power. Finally, the red arc is called never exceed, and anytime you're in that red arc, you are absolutely maxed out. You've reached the absolute maximum airspeed that aircraft can handle, and if you go over that, you're gonna tear the wings off the thing, so you never want to be in that red arc. Next up is the attitude indicator. So if we take a look at the attitude indicator, you'll see that this one moves just like the airplane moves. So if we pitch up, it pitches up. If we pitch down, it pitches down. If we roll to the right, it rolls to the right. If we roll to the left, it rolls to the left. That S, what makes this instrument really cool, is that it S, a visual representation of what the actual airplane is doing. It also has a built-in level indicator, which is that horizontal line that runs through the middle. When that airplane is completely level, that little ball is going to be sitting right in the middle. If the ball moves to either side, that tells us that we're banking to that direction. So the attitude indicator is one of the most important instruments in the cockpit, because it tells us exactly how the aircraft is oriented relative to the Earth. Next up is the altimeter. The altimeter tells you how high you are above mean sea level. Notice how as I change altitude, the hand on the altimeter changes as well. Now there's something really interesting about the altimeter. You'll notice that there are 2 settings on the altimeter, one for the altimeter setting and one for the pressure setting. There's actually no difference between those two. They're basically the same knob, but when you land at an airport, the tower will give you a pressure setting. That pressure setting is typically 3 digits, like 30, 12, for example. You would then turn that knob to 30, 12. Why do they give you that number? Because the pressure setting at airports is usually a standard pressure setting, meaning that the pressure at the airport, if you were on the surface of the Earth there, would be considered standard pressure. So when you set your altimeter to that pressure, your altimeter will be reading exactly what it should be, hopefully. Of course, there are other ways to calibrate your altimeter, but that's a topic for another day. Next up is the turn coordinator. Now the turn coordinator is made up of 2 separate instruments in one. First, we have the wings, which indicate the rate of turn. And then second, we have the ball in the tube, which indicates whether or not the turn is coordinated. So as we perform a coordinated turn, you'll see that the wings are level and the ball is centered. But if we turn too quickly, the ball will move to the side, indicating that the turn is not coordinated. So to correct that, we would push the ball back towards the center by using our rudder pedals. Next up is the heading indicator. Now the heading indicator tells you the direction that you're pointing in relation to the Earth. So as we pan the camera, you'll see that the heading indicator changes. What's really unique about the heading indicator is that it's magnetic. It's kind of like a compass. It's not perfect, however, and it's not as accurate as your GPS or your HSI or your CDI, whatever you want to call it. So anytime you take off, you want to align your heading indicator with your magnetic compass. And then periodically throughout the flight, you want to check that heading indicator with the magnetic compass to make sure that they still lined up. If they're not lined up, you need to realign them. Next up is the vertical speed indicator, or the VSI. The VSI tells you how fast you're changing altitude. So if you're climbing, it'll tell you that you're climbing, and it'll tell you how fast you're climbing. Same thing if you're descending, it'll tell you that you're descending, and it'll tell you how fast you're descending. Moving over now to the right of the panel, we've got all our engine-driven instruments. First, we've got the tachometer. The tachometer tells us how fast our engine is spinning, or in technical terms, it's called revolutions per minute. So for instance, if this engine is spinning at 2,300 RPM, that's what that tachometer is telling us. Next, we've got our oil temperature and our oil pressure. These two instruments just make sure that the engine is properly lubricated. Then we've got two fuel gauges. These fuel gauges tell us how much fuel is in each wing tank. And finally, we've got our exhaust gas temperature gauge. The exhaust gas temperature gauge helps us adjust the fuel mixture for maximum efficiency. Finally, we've got the magnetic compass up top. You might notice that the magnetic compass wobbles a little bit whenever the airplane banks or turns. That's because the magnetic compass is an actual magnetic compass, just like the ones that you use on the ground. When you walk with it, it wobbles around. That's why you see the needle is wobbling here a little bit. That's because we're banking to the right and then banking back to the left. But the magnetic compass is very reliable. It always points to north. And even if all of your electrical instruments fail, you can still rely on that magnetic compass to point you in the right direction. Alright guys, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and remember, you're just one flight away from an adventure.